Hi, everybody. Welcome to a much happier Aston Villa podcast, the Villa Park podcast tonight. I'm pleased to have Sam with me straight after the game. Sam, so thanks for joining me, mate.
No worries, Kev.
The mood's a bit different, isn't it, mate? The mood's a bit different.
Yeah, I mean, I think every Villa fan will be positive after that one. Naturally done the rounds on Twitter just to see what the general vibe is, and I think for the most part, I think everyone's happy. Seen a couple of bit snidey comments saying, good result, but means Gerrard's in for a little bit, or he's bought himself some time. But I don't subscribe to that, and I think it's a very rare view that I've seen on Twitter. So I think everyone should be happy.
Yeah, it sounded like when you're getting chuffed about a 1-1 draw at home, isn't it, for a team that's supposedly chasing top six?
Yeah, I think it's context, though. I think it's context. I mean, look, let's just review the game. We had approximately 25% possession. We had one shot on target. We had 3 shots in the whole game. I think we had something like 100 odd passes. You take those stats out of context, and it's an awful performance. But then you add Man City to the equation, and all of a sudden, that actually seems really positive, because the majority of teams have very limited possession against Man City, and most of them get battered. Or even if they do manage to score against Man City, which doesn't seem to be impossible this year, they concede 4 or 5, or Haaland's getting a hat-trick. So I think you have to contextualize the result and the performance as a whole. And I think when you do, most people are happy, because getting a draw against Man City is not something that we do very often. I think we've lost 10 and drawn 1 for the last 11. I think those are the stats. So you do take that. You take that.
Yeah, the stats are terrible. Do you know what? Like, I know it's easy to get on that sense of like it's just one game, and it's just one game, and whatever it does for Steven Gerrard's position. This wasn't the game it really was going to be judged on, because I still think he could have lost today 7-0, and I think he still would have been in the job. I think they would have given him Leicester and Southampton to see if he could arrest the slump. Because there probably is a little bit of, oh God, you've had Carlos injured, what can you do? And, all that kind of stuff. So, but for me, it's all about the manner of the performance. And look, you're not going to necessarily go toe-to-toe with Man City. You are going to concede a lot of possession. But I just wanted to talk about the way we were set up today. What were your thoughts in terms of the system and how we started the game?
I think for me, the kind of four in midfield, I know Jacob Ramsey started on the left wing, but I think the 4 in midfield of Buba, Dougie, McGinn, and Ramsey, I think it was quite a smart setup, actually, because I mean, what we did was we actually played a defensive game where we designed ourselves to be hard to break down. And the plan was to load the ball into Ollie Watkins as the holding player. And I don't know if you caught this, Kev, but I think today the idea was more to play it to Ollie's feet with his back to the defender, so he could receive the ball and wait for people to come and support him. Because although we did do it a few times where we kicked the ball down the line and sent Ollie to chase it in the hopes of maybe just getting a little bit further up the pitch, I think everyone can see that it's not an effective tactic. I mean, it might come off once or twice in a blue moon, but I think in general, the idea was to try and secure the ball a little bit more. We've been really, really wasteful since the start of the season, giving the ball away, loose passes. And I think the idea today, and especially bringing Douglas Luiz in, was just to arrest that trend of giving the ball away cheaply. Not to say we didn't do it today, but we did it far less than we normally do.
Yeah. I think that the setup for me, it was just so much more compact. And look, you were conceding the fact that, again, there was gaps in between the midfield and attack, which had been a consistent thing we've talked about. But it seemed to me that they were playing quite a rigid 4-3-3, actually, but that 3 in the midfield were basically pretty much bolted onto the defence. So from the position I was sat in, sort of fairly centrally at VP, it looked like they're going to have to go some break us down. So, and it did definitely work and nullify them to a point. I did think in the first half that Ramsey and Bailey were both really isolated. I didn't think that they both. I think you could have easily seen at half time if one of them had been switched. You wouldn't have been massively surprised if Gerrard decided to go for it. But it's great to see a situation where keeping them on the pitch, actually, they were the two that combined for the goal. So I was actually quite pleased. I mean, obviously, it could have turned out in another 1,000 different ways, the game today. But what they were on the pitch for, which you didn't see much in the first half, was exactly that moment when obviously Ramsey beat his man and he cut it back and Bailey finished it off. So it was nice to see that despite the first half not being very effective from them, that it got somewhere in the end, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I really, really rate Jacob Ramsey as a player, and I know that he might not have shown his best form recently, but I feel like a lot of that is because of the situations that he's put in. What he's good at, it is not really being presented to him. Jacob Ramsey's the kind of player who picks up the ball and then he runs with it and he beats a man. He's quite tricky, and he's the closest thing, I think, with Leon Bailey maybe as well. He's the closest thing we've had to Jack Grealish in the sense that he actually wants to get after a player. He wants a one-on-one. That's something that he likes. He's very powerful. He's very strong. He's very quick. And when I don't want to look, it was a positive result, so I don't want to take too many negatives off it. But I think another thing that we saw today, that we also saw at Arsenal last week, is as soon as you take John McGinn out of that team, out of that 11, we instantly become a better team. It happened against Arsenal. We got taken off in 70 minutes. We scored on the 74th, and we just looked like we were playing more aggressive football. Today, we took John McGinn off in the 65th minute, and then by the 80th minute, we had, within our own group chat, we had people saying, "Oh, played really well in the last 15 minutes," and we scored a goal. There's no coincidence for me. I think we've just seen it with McGinn for maybe the last calendar year. That he's not contributing enough to this team. He's not contributing enough in terms of leadership, in terms of tackling, in terms of passing the ball. And I think that trio of Booba, Jacob Ramsey, and Douglas Luiz, I think that can be really successful. And then you have like Ollie Watkins, Bailey, and maybe Buendia or Coutinho on the top left. I think that's, for me, we're starting to work out what our best 11 is. And no matter which way I cut it or what formation I think about, John McGinn's not in that starting 11. And I think we saw today, once he came out of that team, we looked better offensively, and defensively we didn't get any worse. And not to bag on John McGinn too much, but I think that's the key thing. I think offensively he doesn't offer a lot, and that was the difference once he came off.
Just got to be honest, haven't we? I mean, you've got to, in the words of Roy Walker, say what you see. And I think if I even reflect on myself, in terms of the last year or so of supporting Villa, I think the times I've probably given players a little bit too much time. And there's obviously it's a sensible approach because people aren't always on their best form. But I think I've almost given to players too much respect on their reputation. And even some of the newer ones, we even might be with Coutinho dropping off a bit. He's match fitness there and whatever. But the elephant in the room is John McGinn at the moment for me. And the fact that the captain was brought off early against Arsenal, admittedly not as early as you wanted, but early against Arsenal. And then he was brought off after 65 minutes today. And that's quite telling that he's your captain of your team. Now, I don't know any of the clubs that are bringing the captain off 65 minutes. He was the one change that Gerrard decided that he needed to make. And it instantly made us a better team. And it might have been because Man City had dropped off. It might have been because of that. And it might have been because no matter what, we would have gone for it more in the second half of the second half. But still, you're absolutely
I don't think so. I think that they're nice. They're nice reasons to give. Nice theories that's why we improved. But I think the truth is we're just a better football team without him. And look, the reason that John McGinn has been given so much patience and he's given the captain's armband is for the same reason. We love him as a fan base. He's our super John McGinn. Gerrard obviously likes him as an individual, as a person. I think he's hardworking, and I feel like a broken record when I keep saying the same thing every single week. But I think you have to, when you talk about John McGinn, instead of just saying, oh, he's shit, he's this, he's that, I think what you have to realize is that he's trying as hard as he can. He's just not good enough at that level. I think he's around better players now, the likes of Coutinho and Kamara and Leon Bailey, and he might have shone in a team with El Ghazi on one side and Bertrand Albert Adoma on the other side. A midfield of Conor Hourihane, he might have shone. And these are all players I like. Don't get me wrong. For the time, they were great and they were exactly what we needed because we got promoted. But I think now, as the club evolves and as the squad evolves, I think John McGinn is just lagging further and further behind. And, even if you take Mings, for example, a player that, he gets a lot of stick, he makes a lot of mistakes, but there are times of quality with Mings. Do you know what I mean? There are things that he does well, and that's something you can lean back on. That's the argument for Mings there.
Well, I'll tell you what I'd say for Mings. Mings, in terms of Mings' job, right? His job is to, in very basic terms, keep the ball out of the net, right? And his distribution is not great. We know that. Yeah,
it's part of his job, Kev.
No. Okay.
Is to keep the ball out.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I one of the biggest points I made about our centre halves consistently has been that the distribution is not good enough for a team aiming for the top 10 Premier League. You've got to be able to distribute the ball and get out quickly. Yeah. And we're still slow, we're still too slow and turgid, and it goes sideways and backwards. And Martinez is as bad as that for that, right? But I guess my point in essence is Mings is still, for me, consistently reliable to clear the ball, to put his body on the line, and he will do a decent enough job, I think. Mings' job is to break up play and also create chances. And I don't think he does the break up play fairly well at times, but he's not offering anything going forward because his passing in terms of creating stuff has been non-existent from what I can see. He's not scoring goals. He's not adding in terms of goals. He's not doing his Scotland form for goals. So you can look, at least Mings is going to give you generally a decent enough centre-half performances. That's what I'm saying.
I think, I don't disagree. I think with Mings, you either have, very solid Terry Butcher, John Terry-esque defending, or you have calamity. And that's what you get with John McGinn. The things that he does wrong are often very costly. And if you take Arsenal game, for example, he gave the ball away, not just lumping it up the pitch, which he does a lot, and we lose the ball that way. Maybe he's being told to do that. But I'm talking about just small passes, the shorter passes, just a smart, all right, there's a bit of space in midfield, give it to Kamara, and then Kamara is supposed to turn and then play the ball. Like, that's his job. But the reason that I kind of feel a little bit bad for Mings is every single time the ball is in defence and it's there to be put forward, whether it's from Matty Cash, Luca Dean, Ezri Konsa, or Martinez, they always give the ball to Mings, and then they get him. He's the distributor at the back. Out of those four, that's his job, which is quite worrying because he's not particularly good at it. But I think even today he had moments where he really looked solid. And the reason I brought up Mings is because there's something to fall back on. There's an argument to make about him, something that he does well. My point is with McGinn is that he doesn't do anything well on a consistent basis.
Yeah, so, that's the point I'm making. Basically, is that I think the value in a nutshell, the value that Mings adds to the team is clear. I think clear to see. I don't think you've seen that value from McGinn in terms of week in week out playing Premier League.
I agree, and the thing is, I still don't think Mings is the best option. For example, I watched Liverpool Everton game today, and although it was 0-0, it was actually a really good game. And one of the things I noticed was Conor Cody, who's obviously gone to Everton this transfer window from Wolves, or the transfer window that's just gone. And he was spraying diagonal balls with like inch perfect precision, like 4 or 5 times across the game. And when he wasn't spraying those long balls, he was always just distributing the ball very, very well. And I'd argue that maybe in like a last ditch challenge or in terms of throwing his body in front of a ball, maybe he's not as good as Mings, but he offers a lot more. And it's one of those things where I wondered if Conor Cody was available, why didn't we go for him? why didn't we look at Connor Cody for a season or two? Because and I'll be honest with you, until I saw him play today, I'd never asked the question. I never, and this was against top opposition, by the way. Obviously, Liverpool aren't as good as they have been, but they're still Liverpool. They're still you'd assume they'd batter us. But I think just moving off the negatives, and obviously, I think for the first 65 minutes, I think we were okay. We showed little signs of life. But I think actually one of the biggest changes and one of the most positive things that happened in the game was that Matty Cash got injured and Ashley Young came in. And I'll tell you what.
Sam, I'm going to say, mate, you've read my mind in terms of moving the podcast forward, because we have been labouring about McGinn and Mings and things to talk about. Go with the point you're going to make, because I'm with you 100% on this. The positives. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, Ashley Young came on, 37-year-old Ashley Young. He had Phil Foden and Haaland to contend with, as well as Kevin De Bruyne, who was moving all over the place in that free role. And I have to say, and I'm sure most Villa fans will agree with me, he was absolutely superb. He was incredible today. He had Phil Foden pretty much in his back pocket. Yeah, of course he got beat a couple of times, but I think his experience at the top level showed today. That his nous and his positioning and the way he was defending and the way he put his body in front of the ball and the way he didn't lose it when he was under pressure. I honestly, I must say two things. Firstly, I was so impressed with him. So impressed that if Matty Cash is fit for the next game, I really hope Ashley Young starts. And secondly, I think it shows again this issue that we've got with the wing backs. I know we've spoken about it before, but I think it just demonstrates that there is improvements to be made. And the final thing that I'll pick up on before I sort of get your thoughts on it, Kev, is I think it showed that more importantly than being able to go forward, our defenders need to be able to defend and to have that positioning and that tactical nous and that defending prowess where you know where you're supposed to be. You don't waste the ball. You don't put your teammates in silly positions, and you play the ball forward at the right times. And Ashley Young just had everything today. So massive shout out to him. Big props. He was incredible for 90 minutes. Well, how long it was.
It was, absolutely. Mark said Ashley Young was quite simply brilliant. I totally agree. And I think that today, Digne was much better defensively. Now, obviously, it was the game plan. We're playing Man City. Young was, I totally agree. We need on that performance. He needs to start the next game. I know he's 37, and I know he's had his critics as well in terms of, those moments last season. But I looked at him today and thought he's, for me, a standout captain of that team if he was fit enough and good enough to play each week.
Well, he's club captain, isn't he, Kev? He's club captain. He's
so,
the captain of...
If McGinn doesn't play, if you've got an easy option, then if Cash is injured for a bit, to have someone... I mean, I know you can't keep switching it around, but it just feels like people look to him. And you know what? He's got that big game experience, and he doesn't take any prisoners. And he wasn't. He was getting amongst it. He was, he was getting a bit of grief from the City fans because of his United connections, and he absolutely lapped it up. But his quality was there on the ball as well. His passing was good. He epitomised. And I know it's almost exactly what Gerrard said today, but he epitomised our passion and fight today. I felt, and he was a big game changer for us. And with Digne being more defensive as well, it gave us, rather than being so exposed down the flanks and then having Ramsey having to fill it and McGinn and Kamara and everyone else, it gave us a structure to build from. Now, a team like City are always going to create chances, which they did, and we haven't got into that too much. Maybe we rode our luck at times, but I think that Ashley Young is one of the best performances I've seen from a Villa player. Probably the best performance I've seen from a Villa player this season was Ashley Young today.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, I think when it comes to Ashley Young, what you've got to think is a couple of things. We have to be honest with ourselves. He is 37. And although he's 37, today he didn't look physically incapable of competing at all. He was outpacing Phil Foden. He was keeping pace with, with him. He was physically, he's not going to get the better of Haaland in a physical tussle, but he really put enough pressure on him to slow him down. And I think physically he looked capable, even at his age. Now, I'd say going forward, would he be able to do that every week? Probably not. I think the body has limits at that age. But I think to be I think it highlights the fact that we need some proper competition for that right back position.
Well, Kessler Hayden was looking like he was going to be good competition, didn't he?
That's what I was going to say. I think it's either Kessler Hayden comes back in and takes that spot, or competes for that spot. Because from what I've seen of him, he looks very promising. He's like a Tyrek Lamptey or a Reece James. He's of that mold where he's good defensively, but he's better going forward. I know already he's better than Cash going forward. I know that for a fact. But it's whether he can keep up with the physicality and the pace of a Premier League game, in the defensive style, considering we've just said that we need to make sure our defenders can defend first and foremost. Yeah. But I think you were right. On the other side, Luka Dean, I mean, for Haaland's goal, that left side, John McGinn kind of left Kevin De Bruyne as the runner, and Luka Dean was kind of stuck with two men on that side. So there wasn't a lot he could do. He was put in a terrible position by John McGinn there because he didn't follow his runner. But I think in general, I think everyone had a decent game. And that's
mate, I think that's the one thing I was going to say is a lot of the players that hadn't been performing, all of the levels seem to increase. So you look at the centre halves, I thought were good. Distribution a couple of times, but I think on balance, I think they handled it pretty well today. That force of City. Fullbacks we've discussed. I thought that Kamara was really good. I thought Louise was really good today. There was a couple of errant passes, but generally I thought he got amongst it. You could see he was trying to prove a point after his move didn't go through. I thought Watkins was much better today. That's the level of consistency we need from Watkins if he's going to play the focal point of an attack. But he needs to do what he was doing today. The best I've seen him in a long time at holding the ball up. And, when he's got a couple of defenders around him, and it was multiple times he came out with the ball when normally it's getting nicked off him. And I think it gave us a bit of an option to just breathe at times when that was happening, because, it wasn't wave after wave of attack. So there was loads and loads of positives, actually. Loads of positives.
I think, yeah. I just on that Ollie Watkins point, I agree with you. It was his best performance for a long while, and it's one that against Man City you take. I think there was the only chance that he really had in the game was where he managed to go one-on-one onto his left foot. Again, his left foot isn't strong, and he hasn't quite mastered the idea of bringing it back onto his right foot and creating that space where, you saw Haaland a couple of times today managed to bring it back on his left, even though his right is so strong. And so, yeah, look, Ollie Watkins' performance today was the best that we've seen from him, and it's definitely one that you'll take, and he should go home happy with what he's contributed to the team, 100%. But again, I think the points that we make about Ollie Watkins are as our only striker on the pitch, and the idea is he taking shots? Is he, taking his chances, the few and far between that they come? And the answers from today's game is still no. Again, we only had one shot on target the whole game. So you have to bear that in mind. That
Aaron says here, start Archer instead of that waste man Watkins. He can't hold the ball up and he can't finish.
Well, I disagree with that. He can hold the ball up. I'd agree that he can finish. I'd love to see Archer get a run of games. I really would.
But Sam, do you think in that system that Archer or Ings would work in that system?
No, but we're not going to look. If we played that system on a weekly basis, for example, if we go to Leicester next week and we try to play how we played today, where we give them 75% of the ball and we're happy to have one shot on target and come away with a draw, no one's going to be happy with it. The system changes. This system is for Man City. Now, obviously,
this has been our best performance of the season. Though. I'm not saying it needs to be this defensive. But I think that if we revert back to flying fullbacks and, etc.
You have to have a less exaggerated version of this. But at the same time, Kev, we were prepared to not play with the ball. And that's not the kind of football that we want at Aston Villa. We don't want, having few chances, a few touches of the ball, having one shot on target for the whole game. And, that's not... against Man City, that's fine. But there's only one or two clubs in the whole league where you say, okay, look, we're just gonna let them have the ball and see if we can take something from the game. Every game has to be the idea of we're going to win and we're going to play good football and we should dominate because we have the players to do so. But I agree to a certain extent. what we were doing before obviously wasn't working. So something new needs to be introduced, and maybe we can take a blueprint from this game. But let's have it right. We cannot play this system in any of the upcoming games that we've got.
Yeah, but this is the real quandary, isn't it, now for Gerrard? Just to fire through some of the comments, guys. Again, thanks everyone for commenting. If you're not subscribed, please do subscribe. Click like on the video; it helps more people find us. Obviously, we're trying to grow and build our Villa community on the Villa Park Pod. Aaron said, "Good, unexpected result today, lads. Played more solid. We do need to use this as a turning point in this season up the Villa. Absolutely." Mark said, "Evening, guys." Mark Farrington said that was unexpected. It's what was needed desperately, though. Gerrard was much more proactive today. Totally agree with that. He also felt to me like he was a lot more animated on the touchline, and he was, and also Neil Critchley was more than I've seen him before. Now, admittedly, I wasn't at the West Ham game, but in terms of what normally is happening, it felt like that seemed to get the players going a little bit. So
I was at the West Ham game, and he wasn't moving. Then he wasn't moving against Arsenal. And you know what? Today had the vibes. I don't know if have you ever seen that meme with the bald guy, and he's like, "I'm going to lose my job." That's what it felt like from Gerrard. It felt like kind of not panic stations, but I think before he had like a bit of arrogance about him, maybe because of who he was and what he'd done in his playing career. He thought maybe that he would be granted time, not just by the football club, but also by the fans, and that we really wanted him here. And I think that he's seen recently that Villa fans are going to be at his neck if he doesn't get the results. He has no divine right to be here. He didn't used to play for our club. We don't have any allegiances towards Steven Gerrard. We only want him here if his attitude is right and if he's getting the team to play good football. Now, the issue I've taken with Steven Gerrard mostly is, one, he never really seems to identify what's wrong with the game. And two, at the end of every game that I've been to, whether it's been driving hours and hours or it's just been down the road for me, he doesn't come over and acknowledge the fans and acknowledge what he's done wrong unless we've won. Today he did. He came over to the whole end and he gave them a clap. Wow, he should be doing that when we lose, not just when we, I was going to say win. We've got a draw out of that, which is a good result. It's
that age-old thing, isn't it? You win together, you lose together. And,
exactly. He runs down the tunnel when we lose. He doesn't want to face the music. He doesn't want to be accountable for it. At least not directly to the fans. He says in the media, rest with me. But then you have to go over and take some stick from the fans when we've won 5 games in a calendar year or whatever it is that we've done. And I think just to put this into perspective, if next week we go and lose to Leicester, and I think we might have Southampton after that, something like that. I know we have Leicester next week. If we lose one of those games or both of them, we're still looking at 1 win, 1 draw, and 5-6 losses in the space of 7 games, and that's not going to be good enough, and his head will be on a chopping block. So now, if he doesn't win against Leicester next week, you can forget. I personally think that from the atmosphere around the Villa fans at the moment, if we go and have not just lose, but if we have a bad performance where it's back to the same, I think that all of the good grace he's built from this game goes. So I really hope that he can build on this and he can prove everyone wrong. He can get Villa firing. It's just about whether he will.
I totally agree. And let's be clear as well, like he's going to be playing a Leicester team that are also in a particularly bad
league, aren't they?
Run of form. Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And they're on 1 point. They've won 0, drawn 1, lost 4.
It was the same with West Ham. They hadn't scored a goal until they came to Villa Park. Then obviously they got the first goal and first win of the season.
Well, Leicester have got Leicester got Brighton away as well tomorrow. So it's feasibly, like, it's back to that whole situation we're in, Sam. You should really be beating West Ham, like you were just talking about. Should really be beating Bournemouth, based on obviously newly promoted. So all of the goodwill will disappear. I genuinely believe that if we don't put in a good performance against Leicester. I think I think Leicester could beat us, but if they beat us and we lost 2-1 and we played well and we had shots on target and we performed well and it was just an end-to-end game, I think it'd still be all right. It's all about the performance to me.
Do you think that's enough? Do you think that's enough, like just to play all right against Leicester, or do you think?
I don't think it's enough if you saying that every week. But I think if you build on this performance with another good performance, it's fine. Sometimes you're going to put a good performance in and lose. But if you put good performances with these players, Sam, you'll more often than not get points, and you won't get points if you play well.
I think even draws at this stage, not against Man City, that's one that everyone takes because Man City they're the best football team in the world.
Do you think it's must win? You think it's must win, these Leicester and Southampton?
Yeah,
it needs to be 6 points for you.
I think we need to win one of them. I think we have to win one of them. I think if we don't, and we're sitting there with 6 points after 9 games or 8 games, who's that enough for? That's the equivalent of 2 wins. And not only that, we've only won once. I think it's quite telling because we had West Ham last week, or the week before, and they hadn't scored a goal. They hadn't won yet. And they came to Villa, and what happened is they used Villa to catapult their season, as teams so often do. When they're in a bad run of form, I honestly say the best fixture in the league, when you're playing like absolute trash, is to play Villa. And Leicester are in that position where they're not playing well. They need a springboard for their season. And historically, we have been that team. It's not me being negative. It's just facts. Because since then, West Ham went on to draw with Spurs, played very well, and should have got a draw today against Chelsea. They have actually springboarded their season off a win against Villa. So I think what we need to do is we need to use a springboard. The same way we've got a good draw against Man City. The fans were incredible today, super loud, and that's it. We should use that as momentum. And I genuinely believe that if we lose against Leicester and we say 5 losses and 1 draw out of the last 6, I just don't see the argument for keeping him on. There's none.
Yeah, I think that it'll be strong. Just to go through a few of the more comments we've had. Again, guys, thanks for the comments we've had. Even an AJ, been a regular lately, so good to see you. Mari Mills Entertainment, one love from Jamaica, everyone. Absolutely, we a lot of love for Jamaica today. With what Leon Bailey 31 did. Ian made a good point about McGinn. Just to look at the other side of it, give structure to the midfield and has high energy. His physicality makes a big difference on the ball. He's been a little off it, but it's me down more down to poor form. That's I guess a different view. Ian also said that Young's been excellent in some ways. Cash in his injury helped us as he was struggling with Foden. Young seemed to have his number. And Ian again I thought it was a good question just for us to discuss briefly. If we had a choice of Coutinho, Buendia, or Ramsey as the 10, and again moving forward, obviously we'll, as you said, Sam, will be a bit more offensive in the Leicester and Southampton games. If you had a choice of Coutinho, Buendia, or Ramsey, who would you choose? Or do you don't think it's one of those 3? You could have multiple.
Do you want to take that one first?
For me, it depends on the system. It depends on the system you're playing.
No, we're not having any of that. Go on, number 10 in that system. 3 behind, and number 10, and then 2 up top.
Okay, so we've got 4-3-2, 1-2, right? You're playing.
It's the only system where there is a number 10, isn't it?
I still think I'd play Coutinho.
Right. I take Buendia because I think Jacob Ramsey's a number 8. I don't think he's a number 10. I think Jacob Ramsey is a perfect box-to-box midfielder. He's high energy. You saw him winning the ball on the halfway line today and creating that chance for Ollie Watkins, and but for a poor touch from Jacob Ramsey, we could have been in there. And I think,
was it a poor touch or a bad pass? I thought it was a bad pass. No,
it was a poor touch. The pass was fine. Pass was absolutely fine. Okay. It was actually really good, right into his path, perfectly weighted. In front of him, not behind him. It's just a poor first touch. He took the outside of his right foot. But I think Jacob Ramsey he's a number 8 player, and he's got the attributes to be very good at it. For me, Coutinho looks like he's better when he has that kind of free roll. You start him out on the left, and then he can just kind of drift. Buendia for me is an out and out 10. I don't think he works well on the wing because he's not particularly quick, but he's super tricky. And there's even. You saw it earlier in the week and at the last game. The balls that he plays through, he's got very good eye for it. Those kind of slicing balls through, as well as Douglas Luiz. If you have Luiz and Buendia in the team, you've got 2 players you can play killer passes. Not saying Coutinho can't, but I'm just saying that I think you limit Coutinho when you put him in the middle as opposed to on the wing.
Yeah, look, I think there's arguments all round. I don't think any of them have been anywhere near consistent enough. We've said a lot that Ramsey's been the one that people have been asking to come out of the team recently, and I was again surprised he started today, and yet I think he was one of the better players. And credit to him today in terms of what he did. And I don't know, you can see what you're saying about a lot of the players about form, and Cash, Digne, Coutinho, Watkins. It seems like a lot of them were talking about it, but I don't know. I just think that Coutinho, I still think he's 30, just turned. I still think in a team that wants to push to the top 10, you've got Philippe Coutinho still should be somewhere near his peak.
I think he should be in the team. I just don't think he should be a 10. But I think where do you play him? Like I just said, on wing, on the left wing, and let him roam, let him go wherever he wants across that front three, and he can go in and support Buendia. I think they work well together, actually, Coutinho and Buendia. When we're attacking the game, when we have to sit back, maybe not so much, because I think Buendia is actually super tenacious. He at the start of the season, he was really getting into the tackles, into the challenges, and I think now he's kind of lost a little bit of motivation. I think that a new manager would actually be really good for Buendia, and especially if you talk about Poch, Argentinian to Argentinian, understands him. I think that you could really revitalize Buendia, because for me, when I look at these players, I'm not always looking at just what's on the surface. I'm really looking at sort of like a little bit deeper, and I think Buendia has got incredible potential. I think the same with Jacob Ramsey. I think his potential is incredible. So I think you can unlock that, and there's positions, and there should be enough games. Hopefully, if we manage to get a little bit further in the cup for a lot of these players to play. But I think all in all today, I think good performance. We really challenged Man City. Look, they could have won it. I think they had like 13 shots on target or something like that. We got that little bit of fortune that we need against teams like Man City, and we actually had a bit of bad luck as well with Coutinho's offside. A lot of people are saying, look, he was robbed of a wonder goal. I don't think he was, because the players around him had stopped playing. Edison wasn't trying to save the ball. Riyad Mahrez stopped pressuring him. Everyone stopped going towards him because the whistle was blown early. Yes, it shouldn't have been an offside, but I don't know if that goes in, because it comes off John Stones' face as well. So I'm not sure if it is the wonder goal theft that everyone thinks it is, but it was definitely a terrible decision. They could have waited a second.
Well, let's talk about the officials today. Obviously, I was in the stands, and you always see it worse in the stands. When you look back at the end, you realise that when you're 75 yards away, rather than getting the benefit of the replays, on the screens at home, you get caught up with the fans in the crowd, and you think everything's going against you. Were the officials as bad as I thought, and everyone else did think they were today?
I think he was a bit trigger happy with the whistle. I think he was calling fouls very softly, which is not in keeping with the rest of the season from what we've seen.
Didn't seem to be for Villa though.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was a bit trigger happy all round, but definitely more so for there was a bias for Man City. I'll be honest. Blowing the whistle early, not really letting things continue. There were a few times where there were fouls on us that weren't called. He didn't have a great day. I think his biggest crime today was not really letting the play flow as the other officials have done this season. And I think not being consistent with both teams, because it's fine if you're going to blow the whistle for soft challenges, but then you have to do it for both sides. You can't just do it for Villa. So no, I don't think he had a great game. And yes, they all the officials messed up with the Coutinho goal.
I tell you what. One thing I like seeing today. It felt like. Do you remember when there was that moment when Bailey and Watkins did a 1-2, and they both had players on them, and it was really crisp passing, and it was almost like watching Man City. Like everyone around you, and all of a sudden you've basically made a bit of space, and it felt for me that seemed to galvanise the team. And from there, they seem to have a bit more confidence going forward and playing passes it a bit more pace into someone's feet. And then seeing Ramsey committing someone, he looked like he'd stopped and then he went again and then cut it across. Oh my God, I couldn't believe it. Like we've been saying it for ages. Go at someone, commit someone, something will happen, rather than stopping, turning back, passing, slow, ponderous, nothing going on. it felt like there was a little bit of attacking impetus. So I think that gives us loads to build from going into the next games. And it's going to be really interesting, both what system we play, what personnel we play. Gerrard might be forced, Den Duncan might be fit, and therefore, does he get into that team now? I don't know if he flips it up. Cash, Young, what's going to go on with that? But also, I think how attacking we are, because we've been defensively not great this season, but I think we've been worse attacking-wise this season. So it'd be really interesting to see. There's been some good comments, actually, that have come through on the back of this as well. I'm not sure what this means. Maybe you can help me out with this one. By Spade XG Music, Chippy showed a bit of his class LB31. But Leon Bailey must be. It was a fair shout from the lads. I don't know what that's referring to, but I think he was good. Ian thinks it's going to be a sack-off between Gerrard and Rodgers. Maybe. Wouldn't it be crazy, though, if we ended up sacking Gerrard and appointing Rodgers bottom of the league? Like you used to get that back in the day when, Alan Kirbishley and, Ian Dowie, get
sacked. Just swap jobs.
Swap jobs. You didn't work very well there, mate, and I didn't work well there. Let's see if we can work better somewhere else. Chris Darby said Ashley Young was a giant today. Couldn't agree more, Chris. Connor Hennessy says, great result in performance from almost everyone, but I think the next game is much more important. Have to win it to start a run. Well, yeah, I totally agree. There was also, I think earlier on, a decent comment when we talk about the whole situation with Young. Just briefly talk about it. Do you think he would struggle against the pace of Barnes? Mark Farrington says.
I don't think he's slow. I don't think Phil Foden is slow. Obviously, he's not as quick as Harvey Barnes, and he might do over the course of a game if Harvey Barnes is doing multiple sprints. It might tire Ashley Young out. But this is what I said earlier. I mean, over the course of one game, without him playing consistently, Young, he didn't really seem off the pace. He didn't seem to struggle physically or struggle to compete physically. So, I mean, who knows? I think what all it displayed today, Ashley Young is not a long-term solution because he's 37 and, he's not really about that life anymore. But I think it highlights that we could improve that position. And, Matty Cash was really good last season. Again, he wasn't great going forward, and he was better defensively, which is why I think he got all the attention and applause, rightly so, that he did. But I think there's a better right back out there for us, and he might be on loan. Who knows? But we definitely need to improve that position.
Who knows, mate?
I said this right at the start of the season, Kev. I don't know if you remember the first podcast back. I said there's a lack of competition at right back. There's nothing pushing Matty Cash on because he has no genuine competition. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. That's how I see it. That's how I call it.
Sam, listen, it's been good to catch up, mate. I've probably been a bit longer than we thought we were going to do. Let's just bask in this situation where whether you've watched it at home on telly, whether you've missed the game but caught the result, by someone WhatsApping you, whether you were at the great game like I was today. I never predict Villa to lose, and I thought genuinely, I'm going to be honest now. On my soccer 6, I had Villa 0, Man City 5. Right, that's what I went for.
I had a tenner, Kev. I had a tenner on Man City to score at least 6.5 goals, so 7-0.
Okay,
that was my. So I had 0 confidence.
You're even worse than me, and
even worse. I put money on it. That's how bad it is.
Yeah, and I said I'd take a 3-0. So, and then we had a decent-ish performance in the first half. We would say we battled well. We came off feeling proud of what we've done, right? We know Villa do not perform in 2 halves of a match. We know that for the last couple of years, right? So when City then scored, I actually called it with people I was sitting with. I said, I bet City are going to score before the 50th minute. 49 and a bit minutes, they scored. Mystic Mega. And then I thought, well, what are we going to do now? How do we react to go a goal down? So let's just, before we leave, let's just make sure we really bask in this moment now. We came back against the league favourites, free score in Manchester City. Haaland, we limited him to 1, which I think we probably should get some kind of Puskas award for that, for limiting him with his form to just 1 goal. Although he could have scored, he missed a couple of others, didn't he? But and there were a lot of positives performance-wise. Someone put a comment earlier on about Konza, saying basically, how do you think Konza did today? He's been getting a bit of grief. I think Konza has been getting a bit of grief. I thought he was much better today. I've got to be. Yeah, I thought he was much better. So I think that obviously it's credit where credit's due, basically. I thought fullbacks were good. I thought midfield was good, and it was great to see the combinations. One person we haven't really talked about, and just briefly at the end, but Leon Bailey. I love seeing him have a moment where he made a difference in a game. You know, he's obviously had bits of moments. Everton, he scored a goal, got an assist, last season, and he's done bits of flicks here and there. But this was pivotal, wasn't it? It was the equaliser against Man City at home. And I hope that gives him the opportunity now to push on, mate. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I said it earlier when I was talking about John McGinn. I was talking about having players with quality around him that maybe he's not used to. Leon Bailey's one of them players. He's, sometimes you get really good players who are quite quiet for a period of time and then they explode and they're just difference makers in a match. And Leon Bailey was very good today. He looked an outlet for an attack, and he did his job, man. He was there at the right time, and big up Leon Bailey. He's exactly
big up Leon Bailey, absolutely.
Big up Leon Bailey. He's exactly. I mean, he said afterwards. I'm not sure if you caught it, but he said on Sky Sports News, he said we worked our bollocks off today, and they were like, "Oh, please."
I haven't seen that. No, it's good. Yeah,
but he's right. He really did. He worked hard and he got his reward. And I've said this about a lot of players, including Leon Bailey. You can't ask players to play one game on, 2 games off, 30 minutes from the benches. You have to give players time to consistently get to, especially when the Premier League is not like their home league where what they've watched and what they've grown up on and what they've played in. He needs time to adjust, and he showed today just what he offers. And he's shown it a couple more times. He's hit the bar, and he does his step overs, and he's very good. Just give him some time, let him play, let the man play. Why bring him here if we're gonna shackle him? So very impressed with him today, and everyone else in the team. Even McGinn, he's part of it. Just give it all to the players.
I think he did okay, McGinn, first up. It's just his passing was off again, and I think
thought he was crap. I don't want to bag on him. Do you know what I mean? Like. Yeah. I don't think he offered anything. He didn't necessarily do anything wrong, but he didn't offer anything either. He did do something wrong as well because he didn't track Kevin De Bruyne for the first goal. So he did make a mistake, but that's not the point. The point is,
let's move on from McGinn. Let's move on from McGinn. Yeah,
as a performance, it was really positive. It gave the Villa fans something to be hopeful about, and the vibe around the stadium was great. The vibe for all Villa fans were just a bit shell-shocked. Like, we got something against City. And this is all we want, by the way, just to clarify. Forget the result. All we want is to see a bit of effort like we did today and the manner of the game.
Should be the bare minimum, though, Sam, shouldn't it, really? You should be the bare minimum.
But that's all we want. We want the bare minimum. And it was really enjoyable to watch today, to see the team have a bit of direction and a game plan and a bit of effort and a bit of heart and going into challenges like we said. So, yeah, fair play. Let's just hope it can continue and we can all enjoy watching the Villa again. Because at the end of the day, I know some people love moaning. I hate it. I love it. I love enjoying watching Villa, and I enjoyed watching Villa today. So
some people didn't go today. I saw on Twitter loads of people saying I've got tickets available, and so
that was me. I told you this week. I said I'm not going to drive 5 hours there and back to watch us get absolutely battered by City. I was that demoralised from Arsenal.
Yeah, so watch us lose by over 6.5 goals, and you thought, didn't you? To watch us lose it by at least 6.5 goals, yeah.
Honestly, I was that demoralised from Arsenal. I went to the Emirates on Wednesday, and for the first time, I think maybe even in my whole life, I didn't want to be at a football game that I was at, and I was really downhearted. I was like, this is shit, and it's really depressing. And I've taken time out my day, and I've spent hundreds of pounds getting here, and
Sam, FA Cup final 2015, 4-0 against Arsenal.
I remember that. But even then, we were in a cup final. Do you know what I mean? At least we were there.
Terrible. Didn't have a shot. Enjoyable
game, enjoyable match, and hopefully against Leicester we get another reaction. Be it Gerrard or anyone else, I don't care who's manager, as long as they're improving Villa and we're competing. I don't care who it is.
Yeah, and it was good just finally to say with the whole chat about Bailey, obviously what he did. There was moments in that game against a team that were going for us, that we were giving it to them. We were competing with them. We were blow for blow for a bit of time. And we looked dangerous going forward. We looked like it wasn't slow. We were committing people. Even other moments in the game when Obviously, there was that pass. I don't even know who played the pass through in the first half when Watkins had his shot. Who played the pass through to him? Was it Kamara?
Douglas Luiz.
Douglas Luiz, right? Okay, so that was the defense splitting pass. There was the pass, obviously, that went through when Watkins put Ramsey through. So there were other moments. Obviously, Coutinho nearly got on one at the end. It was a goal. Was it a goal? Not a goal. So we had a few situations today against a really good team where we caused the problems, and I think that needs to stay now. That needs to stay. So, yeah, look, lots of positivity. Sam, mate, thanks for joining me. As always, it's not always easy after a game, so good to
easier after these kind of games, Kev.
Well, it's always easy after these kind of games because I said I even put a tweet out today saying depending on the result basically and how we're feeling. So, guys, thanks for all the comments. I really appreciate it. Anyone I've not read out, I apologise, but yeah, great support again tonight. If you're not following, please follow, please subscribe, give the video a like. We'll be doing a pod before the Leicester game as well. So yeah, get on there with the comments in terms of what you think your lineups would be. Send us tweets, tell us what you think the score's going to be, and yeah, remember. In terms of Aston Villa through the thick and thin, no matter what happens, we'll follow the Villa. And it's much easier to follow the Villa on days like today, isn't it? So, yeah, Sam, thanks, mate.